President Obasanjo was there as president for 8 years. He did not name anything after Nwosu. Nothing was mentioned about him. Even Yar'Adua was there. President Goodluck Jonathan was there. After Goodluck Jonathan, Buhari was there for 8 years. And now that Nwosu is gone, you want President of Tinubu to name structures after Nwosu. It will not happen. It will not happen. Tinubu will not do that. So we don't need to force him to do anything like that. So let's just limit ourselves with what we can manage here.
Each day I leave my house to come to these chambers. I ask God to guide my thoughts, to give me the will to speak the truth, and to service my conscience. I have listened and I've read through this 2-page motion moved by a man I respect and I will always respect. But when it comes to facts, the written word, it will go into history. I want to be on record as saying the following. Paragraph 3 of this document, this motion, which says, quote, conscious of his courageous defense of the democratic electoral process during the 1993 presidential election that led to the famous June 12 slogan, which ultimately confirmed MKO Abiola as the winner of the election. This is manipulating and wrestling with the truth. June 12 became famous because Nigerians who voted and the elections result already announced, people were at liberty to do their calculation. But because the chief electoral officer failed to formally announce the figures and declare the winner, the Nigerian people on their own talk about, if you look at the media review, the man who is widely believed to have won the election, because the man who should have announced it failed to do so. The second paragraph, or the fourth paragraph, informed that he stood his ground during Nigeria electoral wishes and aspirations were realized, which culminated in June 12 being marked as a 30th Democratic Day due to his unwavering stand as an umpire. Sir, again, this is not correct. President Muhammadu Buhari, to his credit, decided, and may God bless him for that, said what Nigerians already knew. But coming from a city head of state and president that gave you the currency, he said everybody knew that MKO Abiola won June, election that was conducted on June 12th. Nigerians were really in pain because nobody is able to quote where Professor Nwosu announced the results. It is his failure to announce the result, whether under threat or other whatever forces that prevented him from so doing, that Nigerians were unable to say that he was declared the winner. In fact, I was active in that struggle. When we met with the late General Sani Abacha, he said the reason he decided to order the detention of MKO Abiola was that MKO Abiola proclaimed himself as the winner of the election and therefore as president. It was on that basis Abiola was arrested and he died in detention. If Professor Nwosu had the courage, I emphasize courage as is being suggested here, to announce the winner and damn the consequences. After all, he who is not ready to die for something will end up dying for nothing. We cannot distort history in this Senate. We must be seen to have sentiments that reflect the average feeling of the average Nigerian. Professor Nwosu, when it mattered most, his courage failed him. And when you give national honors and recognition, you do so for people who have shown courage, who have paid the supreme price, or who were ready to pay that price. Lastly, cognizance of the fact that Professor Nwosu laid a landmark foundation, blah, 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 blah. This is the reason it is even more painful that you allegedly have all this courage to conduct elections. I'm on record as saying that Professor Nwosu and President Babangida fooled 18 million Nigerians that voted. Nwosu is not on record before his death as admitting that before I die, let me confess that there was a winner. We have 2 seconds remaining. Therefore, let me round up, Mr. President. I thank you for this, because this is very important. If you couldn't, this is my last point, sir. I appreciate. This is my last point. So I want my in-laws to understand. If he was afraid of the gun, because we are under dictatorship, some people might say, well, but there were Nigerians who were protesting under the gun without minding the consequences. After the end of Babangida's tenure, the death of Abiola, the birth of the new democracy that produced President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Obasanjo. Since then, I would have expected Nwosu to say, either on his birthday or on any special occasion, now that we are back to democracy, there is freedom of speech, even the freedom to lie. I would have expected Nwosu to be able to say, I could not declare these numbers. Now on my record, Abiola won this election, but I was not able to die without confession. That he died without confession cannot be rewarded. Thank you, Senator Osita. Cannot be rewarded. Senator Osita, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues, for this special recognition. I want to start on this note. Conscience is an open wound, and only the truth can heal it. Let it be on record. I read the motion from Senator Abaribe, the man I respect so much, landlord, and I also listen vehemently to the sentiments provided by Senator Victor Ume. And I will say this to you, sir. Mr. President, I have attended a lot of courses in the business school and management schools. And I know there's a difference between effort and result. Mr. President, nobody rewards efforts. What people reward is result. Today, Mr. President, I'm being called Senator Cyril Fashui. And this is my 4th time attempting to come to this red chamber. And that is the only time I am being called a senator. We thank God for everything that Professor Nwosu did. But there's something lacking. The result was not there. Everything that anybody has said here is about the effort. Sir, we have seen a lot of national infrastructures being named after individuals. I know the one of the police, which is the Kumasi. I know the one of customs, which is for Duke. And I know institutions, Obafemi Awolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe. There is nobody who will argue against the naming of these national infrastructures to these national icons. Mr. President, Professor Nwosu only made effort. As long as he did not announce the result, whether you are under duress or you are under anything, it cannot be called. It cannot. That election cannot be said that he has conducted a successful election. In view of this, sir, I want to say vehemently that I, Senator Cyril Fashu, representing the good and decent people of Ekiti North, having searched my conscience, I am against the prayer that it should be immortalized by naming INEC headquarters after him. Thank you. I so submit.
Senator Jimo Ibrahim, representing the good people of Ondo South and Ondo State, and I bring good greetings to my colleagues. My contribution will just 2 minutes, which is what you allowed, the Senate President, and I will go beyond that. The motion brought by the doing of the Senate, I can say, Senator Abaribe, is fantastic, but there are converging complexities which have been detailed. Particulars of those converging complexities were detailed by Senator Oshibale. We cannot operate within the rivers of complexities. Democracy, as beauty as it is, has its own vulnerabilities. And it is the vulnerability of democracy that is before us this morning. That the person away professor, learned professor, couldn't even have the courage to announce the result of that election. But like I said, I won't go to those narratives. But what I want to say, Mr. President, that what do we say of Professor Jiga, who conducted an election from the main political party and changed to the opposition, which made President Tinubu to win the election, and President Jonathan leaving office. Jega had the courage to say to Jonathan, you are not the winner of the election. So the winner of the election is President Bola Ahmed. President Buhari was the winner of the election. And that was changing political parties. Just a minute. Please, order. Yes, order, please. The guy said that President Buhari won the election from another party. So it was shift between PDP running government against an APC, and he had the courage to come out and do that, and he didn't die, nothing happened, and we didn't name anything after him. We couldn't even make him a minister. Beyond that, it's not even the Senate. I don't even know whether he got any national honor. Myself, I hold the national honor of Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, CFR, which is next to the Senate President's home of GCON. So I don't know what we are talking about. I wish Professor Wosu a journey mercy to the external world, where he will rest in perfect peace. But this Senate should quickly run away from resolving converging complexities within the historical context of the Nigeria as a nation. Finally, Mr. President, I urge you, because history will be here today, and you are the one presiding, and Nigeria will ask you, is it true within your conscience that we should be naming a whole INEC, not even national honor post-mortem? We should read the whole INEC after one of his chairman who annoyed the election of June 12, who couldn't even come up with a result. Until President Babangida came out to say Abiola won the election, and he regretted his action. Professor Owosu couldn't even make Babangida came. Okay, Buhari, I don't really believe in Buhari's sentimental statement. They were just mere narrative. Buhari was even courageous enough to say this is the result, I publish it. So I don't believe in Buhari. I believe in the apology tender by Babangida that yes, Abiola won the election. Yes, Buhari said it, Babangida also said it. Yes, but Buhari said it better. Babangida said it better than Buhari. Mr. Senate President, I want to say before I take my seat that I don't like anybody in the Senate with due respect to put words into my mouth, because I'm somebody who doesn't believe in Buhari. So whatever Buhari does is completely not believed by me. So finally, I want to say and advise the Senate that the converging complexity cannot be resolved in one sitting of the Senate. Nothing, absolutely nothing, should be named after anybody, not even INEC as an institution. I so rest my case. Thank you very much.
Senator Patrick
Kebbi North. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I think we are using too much emotions and not much of the facts of the case. I call myself a victim of June 12th, precisely because I contested for the Secretary Generalship of the SDP in 1993, and we lost the election to Solo Lapido for the former governor of Jigawa State. After that, we had a lot of trouble selecting the vice presidential candidate. I was in the Kingibe faction, and we were able to defeat Atiku Abubakar to get Abiola to name Kingibe the vice president in order to have a seamless election. We went through that process, and we knew we won the election. It was annulled. Everybody knew what happened, or what happens under the military. To accuse this late gentleman of not allowing the election, not announcing the election, I think is very, very ahistorical and uncharitable. Mr. President, even under the rest, he was not even to have conducted the election in the first place. Yes. But he went ahead and conducted it against the military who appointed him. After the election results started coming out, and it was aware that Abiola won the election, he also asked his Director of Legal Services, Malam Abaribe, who is still alive, he's my junior brother, to go to court. Buhari went to court, and he won in the court in the Federal High Court. The appeal, he went to the Court of Appeal. Like my statesman from Anambra, Senator Ume, said, they were afraid that the Court of Appeal is going to give INEC a favorable response. The military came and annulled that election and disbanded INEC. And at that time, my junior brother Abaribe lost his job also, together with Immortalize. Now, how come, with this historical narrative, some of us are alive, we are participants in that process. There are some people here who are talking, who have never been part of the process, and then we are coming out painting certain historical narratives which are wrong. Please, let's honor ourselves and uphold what is right and do the right thing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Now, Senator Titus answers. All mistakes is hereby corrected.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Victor Ume, OFR. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. I rise to second this motion moved on our behalf by Senator Abaribe. And on seconding it, I'd like to make some contributions to the motion. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this motion is a very crucial motion. I'm happy that you've granted that it should be taken today. The reason is very simple. When a man lives in this world and makes an impact, when he departs, his departure should be marked. And his life and essence will need to be captured in bidding him farewell. Professor Humphrey Nwosu wasn't just an ordinary person in Nigeria. As the motion encapsulated, he was the chairman of National Electoral Commission for 5 years under the military regime of President Baramasi Ibrahim Babangida. He midwifed return of Nigeria to democracy through that period. And when he was appointed, he started with putting in place democratic structures with the promise made by Babangida that will exit by August 1993. he set out to conduct all the elections, House of Assembly, governorship, National Assembly elections, successfully using his designed option A4, which made it possible for people to line behind the candidate of their choice. And those elections he conducted before this June 12 were celebrated across Nigeria. There were no litigations after declaration of almost all the results. So the country enjoyed his stewardship. Then came the big one, the presidential election. He prepared for this presidential election, and the date was fixed for June 12, this famous June 12, 1993. That would have been the final bus stop of his service to this nation if he conducted the presidential election and returned the winner. He was on it until the 11th of June. He was summoned by the then military government and asked to halt the conduct of the election the next day. Mr. President, if you recall, even in this republic, many elections have been postponed. He was asked to postpone the election or to stop it. He said no. That the enabling law said that no court shall have jurisdiction to stop the Electoral Commission from conducting a scheduled election. This was the stand he took before the military council. And they told him he should stop. He said no. The next day, 12 June, he conducted this election that is now called the famous June 12 election. He concluded the exercise, started announcing the results, remaining Taraba State. They went in and stopped him from concluding the declaration of the results. That's how the impasse began. Every attempt to make him to back.
You have 2 seconds remaining.
Every attempt to stop him from concluding the exercise, he rebuffed all of it, despite military threats. He had to get the Director of Legal Services of the Commission to file an action in court for an order of mandamus to compel INEC to declare the result. I'm coming to get to the final point now. And when they disagreed, they went to the Court of Appeal in Kaduna, seeking for that order. The Court of Appeal scheduled 25th of June for ruling. On 23rd of June, because the military was afraid that the Court of Appeal was poised to grant that order, looking at the results of the election, which he had already tendered in court, showing that Abiola won the election. It was at that point that the military dissolved the National Electoral Commission on the 23rd, 2 days to the ruling, and he was whisked away. That was when he was sacked.
So thank you very much to Adam Oshobele.
Contribution.
Thank you. Because of my orders to speak.
Please let me land. There is something I want to correct. I want to correct something. Having done that, Nigeria has gone on, and the struggle to revalidate that June 12 presidential election took a huge toll on Nigeria, including loss of lives. But now we have come back as a country to acknowledge that that election was the freest and ever conducted. And the president, Moshood Abiola, who was never returned, has been recognized as the winner of the election by the government of Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Decorated with the highest honor, GCFR. Whereas the man who conducted the election has been left.
The time is over. The others want to speak. So Adam, you have the floor. Adam,
thank you very much, Mr. President.
Change your name. It's an oversight.
Yeah, Mr. President, my name is Osita Zulaso. I represent Imo West. I just want to draw the attention of the Secretariat to the fact that I'm one of the sponsors of this motion, and they wrote Imo North. For me, it should be Imo West, not Imo North.
Secretariat, please take note.
Now, Mr.
The sponsor, that stands corrected.
Mr. President, it is important that we do not sit here to distort history. We are legislators, and we are representing the people.
take a census of Nigerians and ask them what they think about Professor Humphrey Nwosu, they will tell you he was a hero. So for us to sit here now and begin to distort history is not fair for our democracy, it's not even good for the country. Mr. President, I want to draw your attention to what happened on June 10. We're talking about June 12. Justice Ibeme, as early as 9:30 on June 10th, said there will be no election. And President Humphrey Nwosu tried to reach the head of state, he couldn't reach him, he couldn't reach the Attorney General. And there was an emergency meeting of National Defense and Security Council, which President Humphrey Nwosu audaciously attended uninvited and told them that the materials have been sent out and that he was ready for the election. Uninvited in the military council, he went there. That is courage of the highest order. And it was after he spoke that President Abaribe had no choice than to ask him to conduct the election. Mr. President, we have human beings who are alive. Today, Mr. Boss Mustafa, the immediate past SGF, and late Mohammed Waziri, we are the SDP returning agents at the Correctional Center. Yesterday, when this matter broke up, I had to call Boss Mustafa. I had to call him. I said, Boss Mustafa, what happened at the Correctional Center? And he narrated to me how courageous Humphrey Nwosu was. And said, without Humphrey Nwosu's courage, you can't even talk about election. In fact, Abaribe, who was INEC legal director, was the one that was only in between Humphrey Nwosu and the NDSC. And Abaribe is still alive. He will testify to you how courageous Humphrey Nwosu was in that exercise. Mr. President, Senator,
thank you. You have 1 second remaining. I give you more time.
Yes, please.
You protest because you protested.
Yes, please.
So your time is off. 1 second.
No, Adam Oshimele wanted to distort history. I won't let him do that. Humphrey Nwosu, in his book titled "Laying the Foundation for Nigerian Democracy," laying the foundation for Nigerian democracy. My account of June 12th.
Thank you. Your time is off.
Entire result.
I will allow the Samson Sejazan Wadel Solomon Olamilekon.
Thank you very much.
Have a minute.
Thank you very much, Mr. President of the Senate, for allowing me this intervention, as it were. I think we are getting the context of this motion disjointed somewhat. I think the central issue here is not whether we name the voters of INEC in memory of Nwosu. The critical issue here is the honor that Nigeria owes this great man. And one of those who is, I'm very passionate about June 12th, very passionate, but I believe that has been one fabric that has challenged our sensibilities as a country. So the central issue here is not naming of the 85. The central issue here is the honor, because if Nwosu is not celebrated, who must we celebrate? Is it Abaribe or the judge who gave that judgment? I am of the opinion that outside whatever might be named after him, which of course is outside our past, as it were, we can at best recommend. But the central issue is that this man showed courage when that was necessary. He had all the opportunity.
You have 1 second. Your time is off. So there's why you have the floor. Solomon.
So I think we can.
Your time is off.
Namely, that edifice after.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Sezamwa Onyewuchi, and I represent Senator Tony Uwe, representing Anambra North.
Mr. President, the issue at stake is an appeal I'm making
that we should not allow our personal biases, our personal sentiments, and our party affiliations to influence what we are doing here. So far I'm concerned, during the June 12 presidential election, I was a presiding officer, and yes, I just came out from secondary school. I was the presiding officer in that election. That election has been adjudged up to today the freest and fairest election in the history of Nigeria. Mr. President, any Nigerian that googles internet, which election is the freest and fairest election in Nigeria, is the June 12th presidential election. Professor Humphrey Nwosu, a professor of political science from the prestigious University of Nigeria, a civil servant, before he was appointed in 1989, did his best, despite the pressure from Babangida government, despite the court order, Mr. President, allow me, despite the court order by Justice Bernard that stopped the election, despite all the threats from the military cabal, the man still went ahead to conduct the freest and fairest election. Was this Professor Humphrey Nwosu that made Justice Saleh from Katangum, Emirate, from Bauchi to annul the election? Was it Justice Humphrey Nwosu that made the military cabal to throw Nigeria into confusion? It is highly unfair. One of my colleagues mentioned about the honor.
My brother
is it because he belongs to a particular political party? Let us not distort facts. It's very disappointing that some of us will be distorting facts just because Professor Humphrey Nwosu is an Igbo man.
Thank you very much.
Allow this motion to stand.
Thank you, sir.
Arrest my case.
Thank you. Please, order.
President, my name is Senator Adefadamsi, Osun East. Generally, most of all the people that are talking about Nwosu, most of them did not know much, as at that time they were very young. Some were still in the university. Now they are here. The elder says, don't judge the dead. Leave him for his creator. Who also was a bloody civilian during Babangida's time. We were in uniform there. My problem is that when it comes to civilian, we want to applaud our people. We have a lot of problems. Right here, one of the generals, and so many, we have celebrated them, that truncated this democracy. Who has done his best, he has gone. The naming of this and that in his name depends on the executive. You can recommend. If the president wants, he will give him. If the president wants the national name, you can give him the best. That's at that time.
Thank you, but
we don't want all these things to continue.
Now, please, we have to, because the deputy leader has come here to advise me. So, Aden, that, and then why Aden as sponsor, Senator Yahaya Abdullahi, who is another victim of June 12. And I want to add, finally, Mr. President, before the support, that we do a mini silence for him since he's going to be buried tomorrow. So it's not part of the prayers, right? Those that the late Humphrey Nwosu was the former National Electoral Commission Chairman, NEC, from 1989 to 1999. Notes further that Professor Humphrey Nwosu supervised the 1993 presidential elections. Aware that his courageous defense of democratic electoral process during the 1993 presidential elections led to the famous June 12, which ultimately confirmed Alhaji MKO Abiola as the winner of the election. Further aware that he stood his ground, ensuring that the Nigerians' electoral wishes and aspirations were realized, which culminated in June 12 being marked as the authentic democracy day, due to his unwavering stand as an umpire. Note that Professor Humphrey Nwosu laid a landmark foundation for the present Independent National Electoral Commission today, and that Professor Humphrey Nwosu passed away on the 20th of October 2024, aged 83 years old. Aware that despite his contributions, Professor Humphrey Nwosu was seemingly neglected until his death, which highlights complaints of unfair treatment of notable public servants. Accordingly, 1. Resolve that the federal government to immortalize him by naming the present INEC headquarters after him. 2. Further urge the government to posthumously honor him with national honor. And 3. Extend condolences to the family and recognize their sacrifice in supporting his work towards a better Nigeria. May I add, Mr. President, that Humphrey Nwosu will be buried tomorrow in his hometown in Ajali, in Anambra State. I so move, Mr. President.
Bitobe, do you want to second the motion?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Senator.